Sometimes, life gives us a love so rare that it changes us forever. And sometimes, it asks us to say goodbye far sooner than we ever imagined. This is the story of Ethan and Lily, a love that waited 10 years to begin, but lasted only a single heartbeat as husband and wife. As Ethan stood at the altar in his black tuxedo, he couldn't hold back the tears. The church was filled with beautiful white flowers, and warm sunlight streamed through the stained glass windows. Friends and family smiled with excitement, but Ethan's heart was overwhelmed with gratitude. Against all odds, he had lived long enough to marry the woman he had loved for 10 unforgettable years. What no one in that church knew was that Ethan had spent years fighting a serious heart condition. Hospital rooms had become part of his daily life. Doctors often warned him that every day was a gift, but he refused to let fear decide how his story would end. He kept believing that if he could just make it to his wedding day, every painful heartbeat would have been worth it. During his darkest days in the hospital, one thing always gave him strength. He would hold a framed picture of himself and Lily close to his heart. Looking at her smile reminded him that he still had something worth fighting for. Every prayer he whispered ended the same way: "Lord, let me live long enough to call her my wife." Finally, the day arrived. The church doors opened, and Lily appeared in a breathtaking white gown. She smiled through happy tears as she slowly walked down the aisle. Time seemed to stand still. Ethan looked at her as though she was the only person in the world, silently thanking God for bringing them to this moment. When Lily reached the altar, Ethan gently held both of her hands. His voice trembled with emotion as he spoke from his heart. "With you, I experienced a love without limits. When I was weak, you became my strength. Thank you for loving me through every difficult season. Today, I give you all that I have left, because every part of my heart belongs to you." By the time he finished, many guests were wiping tears from their eyes. The pastor smiled warmly before declaring, "By the authority given to me, I now pronounce you husband and wife." Joy filled the church as applause echoed from every corner. After 10 years of waiting, praying, and hoping, Ethan and Lily had finally become one. Ethan leaned closer and kissed his bride. As he pulled away, he softly whispered into her ear, "I love you." A peaceful smile crossed his face. Then, without warning, his legs gave way. He collapsed onto the church floor before anyone could react. Within seconds, the celebration turned into panic. Guests rushed toward him while Lily dropped to her knees, desperately calling his name. Someone shouted for help. Another person called an ambulance. Every second felt like an eternity as everyone prayed for a miracle. But the miracle they hoped for never came. Ethan's heart had fought its final battle. The man who had survived years of illness had lived just long enough to fulfill his greatest dream, to marry the woman he loved. Moments later, he was gone. Days later, Lily stood alone beside his grave beneath a cold, rainy sky. White roses rested gently in her hands as tears rolled down her face. She wasn't only burying her husband. She was burying the future they had dreamed about together, a future filled with laughter, children, and growing old side by side. Returning home became the hardest part of every day. The house felt painfully quiet. His favorite chair remained exactly where he had left it, almost as if he might return at any moment. She found herself staring at the empty chair for hours, hoping somehow that this nightmare would end. Night after night, Lily lay on one side of their bed while the empty pillow beside her reminded her of everything she had lost. Sometimes she reached across the bed without thinking, only to remember he was no longer there. The silence became louder than any words ever could. Whenever sleep finally came, she dreamed of the life they had planned together. She saw Ethan laughing as two little boys chased him around the backyard while their young daughter played with a puppy named Taylor and a kitten named Spencer. It was everything they had imagined. But every beautiful dream ended the same way. She opened her eyes and found herself alone. One quiet afternoon, unable to ignore the pain any longer, Lily slowly walked toward Ethan's closet. She stood there for a moment, afraid to open the door. It wasn't the clothes she feared seeing, it was the memories attached to them. Taking a deep breath, she reached for the handle. The familiar scent of his cologne filled the room, and for a brief moment, it felt as though he was still there. Her eyes settled on his favorite black leather jacket with the bright blue zippers. It was the jacket he wore whenever his heart condition made him feel weak. He often joked that whenever he wore it, he felt strong enough to conquer the world. Lily gently took it from the hanger and hugged it tightly against her chest. Tears streamed down her face as she whispered, "I miss you." Holding the jacket brought back one memory she would never forget. It was a cool afternoon when they had decided to take a walk through the park. They laughed about everything and nothing at all, enjoying the simple gift of being together. Suddenly, the sky darkened, and heavy rain began to fall. Without thinking, Ethan quickly took off his jacket and held it over both of their heads, trying to protect them from the rain. The jacket was far too small to keep them dry, and within minutes they were completely soaked. Instead of complaining, they laughed so hard that strangers couldn't help but smile as they watched them. Hand in hand, they ran through the pouring rain toward a small roadside shop. Breathless and dripping with water, they stood beneath the tiny shelter. Ethan looked at Lily with a smile she had never seen before. Then, without a ring and without a single coin in his pocket, he slowly knelt on one knee. Lily laughed through her surprise. "You're proposing without a ring?" Ethan smiled. "I don't have a ring today. I don't have money. But I have a heart that has loved you from the very beginning. If you'll be patient with me, I'll spend the rest of my life proving how much you mean to me. Lily, will you marry me?" Tears filled her eyes before she could answer. She didn't need a diamond. She didn't need a perfect proposal. She only needed him. With tears rolling down her cheeks, she smiled and whispered, "Yes." Back in the present, Lily gently ran her hand across the leather jacket one more time. As she slipped her fingers into one of the pockets, she felt something unexpected. Her heart began to race. Carefully, she pulled out a small white envelope. On the front, written in Ethan's familiar handwriting, were two simple words. "My love." Her hands trembled as she held it. Somehow, she knew this wasn't a letter she should read inside the house. She walked slowly to Ethan's favorite place, a quiet garden filled with blooming roses and colorful flowers. In the middle of the garden stood an old wooden bench where he often sat dreaming about their future. Taking a deep breath, she sat down and carefully unfolded the letter. "My love," it began. "If you're reading this, then life didn't unfold the way we hoped. But before anything else, I need you to know one thing. Loving you was the greatest blessing of my life. Thank you for standing beside me when my body was weak but my heart still believed. Thank you for seeing the man I was instead of the illness I carried. Every smile you gave me made me stronger than any medicine ever could. Please don't let grief become your home. Live the beautiful life we dreamed about. Smile again. Laugh again. Help others the way you've always helped me. And whenever you see the sunrise, remember that somewhere beyond what your eyes can see, my love for you has never ended. I loved you yesterday. I love you today. And if love truly lives beyond this life, I love you forever." By the time Lily reached the final words, tears had soaked the paper. Yet for the first time since Ethan's passing, those tears were different. They no longer came only from pain. They came from gratitude. She realized that although death had taken the man she loved, it could never erase the love they had shared. She carefully folded the letter and pressed it against her heart. Looking toward the sky, she whispered softly, "Thank you, for loving me so completely." Just then, the dark clouds slowly parted. Warm golden sunlight poured across the garden, lighting the roses around her. A gentle breeze brushed against her face, and somehow, in that quiet moment, she felt peace. Lily stood up from the bench and began walking down the flower-lined path toward the light in the distance. She knew there would still be difficult days. She would still miss Ethan every morning and every night. But she also knew she could keep moving forward because that was exactly what he wanted for her. Some love stories are measured by the number of years two people spend together. But the greatest love stories are measured by the lives they change. Ethan's heart stopped beating on his wedding day. But the love he gave Lily continued to beat inside her heart every single day. And that is why true love never dies. It simply finds another way to live. The end.